Good afternoon, everyone. In case you don't know me, my name is Jim Doherty, and I am a member of the Board of Governors and Board of Overseers. Last year, I was chair of the Board of Trustees after having served as vice chair for 2 years and a member of the board for the previous 5 years. I'd like to share a little bit about myself in order for you to learn how I became interested in philanthropy and specifically in need-based aid over the past years. I grew up in South Jersey as the only child of a single mother and the first member of my family to graduate high school. Going to Rutgers was going to be a financial challenge, but I was fortunate to receive multiple scholarships and to be an early recipient of Educational Opportunity Funds, or EOF. I graduated Rutgers with no debt and was able to go to the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine, where I then took on debt. Many years later, I was cleaning out my mother's house, and in the basement, I found a box of papers from my time at Rutgers, which included all of my scholarship notifications. It reminded me that my Rutgers education came with no debt, thanks in part to the generosity of alumni who came before me. This initiated my desire to start repaying those scholarships with interest. Along with dramatically increasing my contributions to Rutgers, I became more involved in the governing boards, eventually reaching the position of chair of the Board of Trustees last year, and now a member of the Board of Governors. What are the Scarlet Promise Grants? Briefly, in June of 2017, the chair of the Board of Trustees charged the board to create a task force on student aid to study the financial issues facing students. And in fiscal 18, that group produced, in my opinion, the most important document ever generated by the Board of Trustees. One of the major problems identified by that report that came to light was the amount of need-based aid that was required to help our students. This aid was in the form of a Rutgers Assistance Grant, which was established in the early 1990s. As a result of this task force on student aid report, the Board of Trustees created a task force on philanthropy in 2018. We recognized the need to assist 3 food pantries, supplement the emergency funds on each campus, and to support the Rutgers Assistance Grants. This task force set a goal of raising $3 million over 10 years in order to help fund these needs. We also decided that a name change was in order to reinvigorate interest with donors, and in a very short amount of time, came up with Scarlet Promise Grants. Last year, 11,000 students received various levels of financial assistance from this fund, amounting to $33 million. These students represented all campuses in the university. Even with that sum, we are far from meeting the needs of our students, and as of last year, there is an average need of about $10,000 per student. Bringing us to 2020, we saw the arrival of the 21st president of Rutgers, President Jonathan Holloway, who immediately recognized the importance of these grants and decided to not only contribute to the grants personally along with his wife, but to encourage other loyal supporters of Rutgers to contribute, amounting to over $3 million in the first week in office, thus announcing a new goal of $10 million over the next year. As a new member of the Board of Governors, I can't tell you how thrilled I was to learn about his desire to make this program a success after my years working on these grants with so many others on the Board of Trustees. So, with that rather lengthy introduction, I would like you all to now hear from President Jonathan Holloway and then meet a couple of our student recipients who've agreed to answer a few questions. Jonathan?
Thank you, Jim, and thank all of you for coming this afternoon, or if you're not in this time zone, late this morning, to allow me to share some thoughts with you. But really, this is about meeting the students as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to keep my comments fairly brief. Jim told you the end of the story when it came to me, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of highlighting the Scarlet Promise Grant Program. But I think it might be helpful to know a bit of the story that led up to that decision in the first place. So when I was invited to put my name in the hat at Rutgers to be considered as a candidate for the presidency, I was intrigued. I knew the place already from my area of my academic background, and I knew about it, of course, as a really strong major research university. But I confess I didn't fully understand those things that led me to put my name in the hat. After doing more research, I was inspired, really is the best word, by the democratic possibilities that Rutgers University presents. What I mean by that is that Rutgers has this incredible tradition of opening its doors to individuals who, and I'm speaking in broad strokes here, by and large have been overlooked by major research universities across time and space. So I'm talking first generation students, low income students, students where English is not the first language at home, underrepresented minority students, et cetera. The fact that a major research university was so committed to being accessible to these populations, to me was a declaration that as an institution, Rutgers was committed to the promise in our great founding documents in this country, this is the US historian speaking, of the democratic possibilities of bringing all these people from all these different backgrounds together and saying, this is yours, this jewel, this opportunity to learn and to do research and to test yourself, it's all for you. And we want to make it for you so that you can better yourself, your own position and your family's position, and make us all a better place. That to me is incredibly inspirational. So I put my name in the hat, of course, and it all worked out. I'm so fortunate that I was tapped to be the leader of this community. And as I was in transition into the job, COVID happened to all of us. And I don't need to explain to you what damage that's done to us in very personal ways. In looking at the university from my outsider's perspective, transitioning in and watching the financial devastation happen to the university, I started to wonder, well, what can I do to help make a difference? And I spoke to Brian Ballantyne, then the chief of staff, now my inaugural senior vice president for strategy, excuse me. Said, Brian, I want to make a material contribution to the university. I want to make a positive difference. He knew about my excitement about the democratic possibilities that Rutgers represents. What can I do? And without hesitation, he said, the Scarlet Promise Grant program. I said, well, tell me about it. And he explained what Scarlet Promise Grants do. And I'm like, that's it. That's exactly what I need to do. And in fact, I started thinking, so my wife and I can make a material contribution. And we have, it's the largest amount of money we've given to anything in our lives. Very excited about that, proud of that. But what can we do as the first family of the university, if you will, to signal to others the importance of this investment and the possibilities that a Scarlet Promise Grant affords? And that's where the idea came to supplement our material contribution by redirecting some presidential funds in that way to signal to inside the university, we want to actually make a difference. And then develop this focused campaign that Jim was talking about to really hyper-fuel, as it were, the work that so many others had done, especially on the board of trustees, to get this program off the ground. And it's been incredibly rewarding to see the resources coming in. And I know many of you have already given to different aspects of Rutgers, which I'm internally grateful. But it's been very exciting to see the resources come in, because to me, that signals a shared faith in the democratic possibilities of this great institution. And I couldn't be more excited to be part of this conversation today, mainly because I get to hear from the students as well. And I think that we are all in for a great treat when we come to listening to the students. But before we do that, I'm going to wrap up my comments by turning our collective attention to a video that helps tell the Scarlet Promise Grant program. Then we'll hear from the students, and then we'll all join you for a conversation. Here's the video.
Now more than ever, America's top colleges and universities are sources of hope, a springboard to civil society, economic development, and better lives. Yet, for financial and other reasons, about 40% of students in the United States can't go to the colleges and universities they're qualified to attend. This is not good for them. It's not good for any of us. It means aspiration delayed and promise unfulfilled. Here's some good news. For a lot of students, the gap between the possible and the impossible often is very small, a few $1,000s a year. Many of them just need a little help for things like tuition or books. Sometimes they need emergency support in a crisis. At Rutgers, Scarlet Promise Grants help fill this gap. Every year, more than 11,000 students receive Scarlet Promise Grants. Usually, the grants range from $500 to $5,000. They provide financial aid and emergency support when things go wrong, like when a student experiences a health crisis or the death of a parent. They are a powerful, flexible resource that helps ensure opportunity for students who deserve it. The return on investment is huge. Promise Grants help make a Rutgers education available to talented students who go on to lead in business, medicine, law, the arts, scientific research, public policy, and much more. They help Rutgers better the world. These grants are made possible in part by generous donors. Your support for Rutgers students is vital, and a little bit of help goes a long way. Please contribute to the Scarlet Promise Grants. Join us today.
Okay. Now we're joined by two of our students, and I'd like them to introduce themselves. Let's start with you, Susan.
Hello, everyone. I am Susan Badia. I am a current junior here at Rutgers University, majoring in finance and with a concentration in real estate. Growing up in New Brunswick, New Jersey, the heart of Rutgers University, I've always been exposed to the big R logo. I've always been right here in its backyard, and I never imagined that I would be right here standing in front of you guys, vouching for one of the programs that ultimately has led me to be here today. The circumstances growing up and the circumstances within my environment have been very, very different to what I'm exposed to at Rutgers. So coming from a low income neighborhood and then also being a first generation student, that alone was enough to really cloud my mind a little bit and think of myself as having setbacks. But being here today in your presence and getting to talk to people, and also being a testament of my determination as well, and my ongoing ambition. I'm just happy to be here to share my experiences and really tell you about the success of students like me and others that can benefit from these opportunities.
Thank you. Israel?
Hello, everyone. My name is Israel Alford. I am a senior at Rutgers University, Newark, the heart, I believe, of New Jersey. And I'm honored to be here to share my experience about my college experience with you guys, about how the Scarlet Promises Grant has helped me throughout school, and just overall share how Rutgers has impacted my life.
So what does a Rutgers education or degree mean to you and your family? Israel?
So for me, Rutgers, a degree means that I will be able to break generational barriers within my family, and that I'm the first in my family to graduate college, well, going to graduate college. And for me, I get to see the trajectory of my family going upwards. Like I said, there's youth coming behind me in my family. I want to be a role model for them. I want to be a role model for people in my community. I want to assist people in getting into school and eliminate barriers that stop students from going to school. And I see a degree helping me doing that.
That's great. How about you, Susan?
For me, a degree is not just for myself or for like my family at that. For me, it's for New Brunswick. For me, it's for the kids that were told that they couldn't go to college, that they had to settle, that they needed to go to school right after graduating high school, that they couldn't even meet the credits to graduate. That's who I do it for. So for me, it's just a degree. That paper that gets sent in the mail, it's just to, it's not just to hang it up, it's to showcase it. It's to let people know that it is attainable and it is right. It could be right in your backyard. So it does mean a lot relating to Israel, being that I'm the first in my family to graduate. But I do hope to share that same degree with everyone that I meet, everyone that I grew up with.
So
You know,
we're curious.
if I could just jump in really quickly, I'm just inspired by both of your responses, and it reminds me of something I feel very strongly about in our society. One of the things that I mourn over is often what I call a tyranny of low expectations. That people are society in broad strokes believes that those people, whoever they might be, are not going to succeed. And I know that is really a narrative related to people from low income backgrounds. And I want you to hear what Israel and Susan are saying is like quite the opposite. I mean, these are people who are just absolutely committed to their education in a way that I find deeply inspiring, and that is going to make a change for themselves, their families, and for their community. So I think, I mean, it's not, Scarlet Promise Grants are exciting, not just because it's helping a person get an education, you know, facilitating the path. It's because you are facilitating the path for people who are driven, who are determined to succeed. And that's where you want to put, that's where you want to invest. That's a smart investment. So thank you for, I know there's more questions to come, but I felt very compelled to jump in on that front. So impressed.
Thank you. Susan, what's your Rutgers experience been like?
It's been interesting. To tell you the honest truth, it has been nothing from what I've expected. So graduating from New Brunswick High School, I was top 3 in my class. Like I thought success was easy and I could get A's, and I did all these AP courses. Then I got to college and I see that there are 50,000 or so other kids that are exactly like me. I wasn't that outstanding performer anymore. I had to grind a little harder. I think that's where the Rutgers grit comes from. And that honestly was shocking. So I had to adjust a lot as a freshman, as a sophomore, even now as a junior. There's a lot of adjustments that I've had to make on the personal and academic level to get where I am today. And honestly, without that, I wouldn't be the director of events for two minority-based clubs at Rutgers Business School. I wouldn't be leading diversity initiatives. I wouldn't be talking to leadership about what we can do to progress our diversity rates. Without those little bumps in the roads and times that I've talked to my mom about, oh my gosh, why am I learning accounting when I'm in finance? Without those little confusions, I guess, I wouldn't honestly be the well-rounded person I am today. So Rutgers has definitely aided my understanding of the world, has contributed to my grit 110%, and has made me aware of just pretty much the real world, because we are, as high school students, we don't see much of that. Now that we're faced with debt, we're faced with financial and academic real life, that's where it hits. So I believe that it's just been an interesting, evolving experience throughout the years. And honestly, bring it on. I'm ready for more.
Thanks. How about your Rutgers Newark experience, Israel?
Yeah, so just like Susan, it's had its fair shares of ups and downs. Even times I've questioned, oh my gosh, why am I here? Like this is hard, etc. I had to grind a little harder. But it's also important for me to state that my experience at Rutgers didn't begin with college. It started with me coming to the Rutgers campus as an 8th grader into one of its pre-college programs, the Leadership Institute Youth Media Symposium, where I got to meet amazing people like Kalina Berryman and Junius Williams, who have mentored and guided me along my path and to help me grow as a leader. And during my time there, I got introduced to the university as a whole. And I got introduced to the HLLC Honors Living Learning community, who drives like social justice issues on campus. And it's helped me to grow as a leader, as a social justice advocate, as a community member, civic leader. I'm honestly like elated that I'm going to be graduating in May, because Rutgers has prepared me to leave college and to change the world.
It's great. How has receiving the Scarlet Promise Grant had an impact on your experience?
Yes, so it has made my experience. Honestly, without it, I wouldn't be here. So let's just put it that way. College is expensive. I mean, I was that kid ready. I was a senior in high school ready to take $70,000 worth of debt at a private institution because I didn't know what loans were. So I was like, yeah, I want to sign up for all this debt. Like, let's go. Let's go to over there on the West Coast. And my mom was like, you cannot. That is not something you can financially do. Let's bring it down here really quickly. So honestly, because and then relating to Israel a little bit, a Rutgers Future Scholar is one of the programs that did aid me to get into Rutgers and continue my post-secondary education. They sought me out in 7th grade. So I have been on the Rutgers campus since 7th grade. Every summer when I could have been in the Dominican Republic, every summer I was taking classes and getting ready for a Rutgers education. And then came the Educational Opportunity Fund that helped me a little bit more on the financial side and support side in terms of being at Rutgers University. Then came Scarlet Promise Grants. So, and it sounds like it's a lot of programs on top of each other, but in reality, it's just a little bit of what financially needy students need or specific students with specific demographics or financial status, what they need to make it. Because without these certain grants, without Scarlet Promise in particular, I wouldn't be having the same experiences. I probably wouldn't get the same access to books. I probably wouldn't be able to stay on campus or off campus, possibly a lower amount of credits taken per year. It all makes the difference. And seeing that addition to my tuition every semester or every semester that I am grateful to get it, it does make a difference in my pockets, and it makes a difference in my mother's pockets, the person who is primarily, assisting me in my education. So yeah, that's pretty much how I want to end that.
That's great that you're a Rutgers Future Scholar. And I didn't mean to, if you heard me laugh or giggle when you said about your mother seeing the applications. The same thing happened to me. I got all these applications as a senior in high school, and she was looking through them. And I came home from school one day, and she's like, "Who's paying for this?" So yeah, I can understand that. Israel, what about you?
Similar to Susan, growing up, my aunt, I was raised by my aunt, and I used to always worry about how would I pay for education even as a young child. And she eventually just said, you know what, it's gonna pay for yourself. Like your education is already paid for. And she genuinely believed that. And at that time, I was like, how is that possible? People are taking out loans, etc. And then when I got to school, so I lost both my mom and my aunt while in school, while at Rutgers. And the Scarlet Promise Grant helped me out in a particular semester where I sort of lost track of the HESA forms and financial aid. It's a long process trying to fill out the financial aid process. And that was the semester she had passed. And while trying to manage all that and becoming to adulthood, managing the house that she lived in, closing out some of the things that she paying for some of the things that she had left behind, it was a huge responsibility, and school sort of got sidetracked for me and financial aid. So it came a particular time in the semester where HESA didn't give me any money, and I was left with a $3,000 term bill. And I couldn't register for classes the next semester. So I went to the financial aid office, told them about the situation, and the Scarlet Promise Grant helped me out, and it helped me register for classes, helped me get through that semester. And now I'm a senior getting ready to graduate, and I wouldn't be here without it.
What do you think you would have done post high school without the financial aid packages?
To be honest, I'm not even sure. I can't even fathom. I can't tell you. It's maybe I'll be here, maybe I won't. But Rutgers Scarlet Promise Grant has definitely helped me continue my education here at the university.
Thanks. How about you, Susan? What would you have done after high school?
I honestly would have taken the debt, honestly. There was no option to not go to post-secondary education. So I would have taken the risk and taken on too much debt and possibly dropped the semester after or drop a year because I couldn't keep going. Because I would probably not been able to keep withstanding so much per year. So I see myself because the personalities we all have. So like I see myself, going into university of some sort, but having to drop it after a year or two because of the financial burdens.
So true. It's easy to sign those loan application papers, but it's tough
Oh,
reality when it
I
comes
see the
to.
bill.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why did I do that?
How's your experience at Rutgers been? How's it changed you, Susan?
Yeah, so honestly, again, my Rutgers experience has been, again, very interesting. Not like the typical experience. So a lot of people say they come to Rutgers because it's diverse. I thought it's a predominantly white institution, so I was exposed to a different world that I didn't really know. I grew up around Black and Latinx counterparts my entire life. It wasn't until I stepped into Rutgers business where I saw this is the real world. I got to know finance. Now, there was no one in my family that ever did finance. So when I talked to my mom about possibly pursuing a career in this, she said, "Oh, so like a banker?" I'm like, "No, not a banker, a person on Wall Street." Long story short. So it got me exposed to different opportunities and different perspectives that I never thought were possible. Again, reflecting on a previous question about Rutgers as a whole, I also think that my experience at Rutgers has made me a little bit more confident in myself, a little bit more just able to be myself in a room full of how many people? 83 people right now. So it has led me to opportunities to participate in clubs that I never imagined. It has led me to connect to counterparts that I never thought I would see myself talking to. It led me to gain acceptance into programs that I didn't think possible for a person that had no idea what they were doing. I still probably don't know what I'm doing. Those examples being like the Road to Wall Street program at Rutgers Business School and other programs alike, where I'm able to be not only a mentee, but a mentor. So, and also using my Rutgers experience to expand. So I've been able to travel to different parts of the country through other clubs such as Alpha, the Association of Latino Professionals for America. And I see Rutgers students there and I'm like, Rutgers, we all know who we are. And when you talk to alumni, they talk about that grit. They talk about that, that passion to keep going. It's really all transferable. So I've been accumulating that for the years. And again, I'm not stopping now.
How about you, Israel? What's the experience been like?
For me, growing up in Newark, there's a lot to complain about. There's a lot of challenges, and there's a lot of barriers to getting into the outside world. And Rutgers has exposed me to a world that I never even knew existed. Um, Coming to Rutgers, the first thing I noticed is that Rutgers is very community minded. And you don't find that too often in many anchor institutions. Rutgers Newark prides itself as an anchor institution in the city, and I see a wide variety of programs that service the Newark youth, Newark community, and things like that. And when I got to Rutgers, I was able to just jump right in through the OUCP, that's Office of University Community Partnerships, through the Abbott Leadership Institute, through EOF. I'm also an EOF student, by the way, Susan. And in particular, it's grown me as a leader, it's grown me as a public speaker, and it's helped me to serve my communities in ways that I didn't think I could do it in the capacity that I was in. And I'm just thankful that Rutgers is the way that it is, and that it's diverse, and that it brings a unique perspective to the table every time. And yeah,
So what's next for you, Israel?
after college,
Yeah.
I'm still not sure. I'm still figuring it out, but I do plan to use my degree in public administration, probably work in City Hall, probably start my own nonprofit, or hopefully work for Rutgers.
You never know.
Yeah.
How about you, Susan?
So I am going to be on Wall Street. So I had started thinking about sales and trading, but now I'm moving into the prime brokerage of business, that being working with hedge funds. So I'm looking into there, and yes, I will definitely be there at post-graduation, hopefully, but planning for it, counting on it.
Great. So without the Scarlet Promise grants, what would things have been like? More loans, or how would you have gotten by?
For me, it would probably be a loan that particular semester, or probably take a semester off, work, save up some money, and then come back the following semester. Like I said, it was a $3,000 term bill. I did not know how I was going to pay it. I probably would have had to ask around for family, community members, my village, but the Scarlet Promise grant definitely alleviated that problem and helped me to move on.
And you, Susan?
Yeah, it would, like Israel, it would be a huge setback. My mom is kind of the person that looks at my totals, since, so, but she would end up having to take on the burden on her part as a Parent Plus loan, which we have done in the past. So that is when, like, a parent does take out a loan on behalf of the student because the student can't do so with the available funds. So instead of me taking on that personal burden, she would end up having to take up that personal burden above all of the other charges and expenses that we have per month. So that would look like possibly taking a semester off to pay her back, possibly taking off a year to pay her back, and honestly going to a community college, which is not bad at all, but going to a less expensive mode of education and seeing if I could possibly get my associate and then move on to post-secondary, 4-degree college.
If I can jump in again, for people who may not know, who are on the call, both Israel and Susan talked about the likelihood of having to take off semester off. Now, that may not sound too terrible to people if you're managing a difficult situation, but in higher ed, the statistics are really quite shocking, that when someone steps out for a semester, the odds of them coming back, it becomes much more difficult for them to come back and to graduate. So semester off, sure, sometimes you have to do it. That's just the fact. Sometimes you have to, but the risk of not completing your education skyrockets. And that is a real challenge, especially for people from modest resources, where a $750 bill shows up and there's no way to pay for it. And that is the thing that stops the person from graduating. And this is where Scarlet Promise makes a really profound intervention to make sure people don't get slotted off into a path that's going to make it that much harder to get that Rutgers degree.
Absolutely. Now I have a question for the two of you, which I'd like to phrase it in such a way that you're going to be talking to everyone that's on this call, and everyone that's on this call needs to talk to other people about why they should be making a gift for Scarlet Promise grants. Everyone has their favorite source of philanthropy, but now we've been talking about Scarlet Promise grants, especially the last few months, and what do you have to say to everyone about that, Susan? Tell me why I should be making a gift.
Okay. You should be making
Yeah.
you should be making a gift because it isn't just for 2 students, it's for thousands. It isn't just for changing one trajectory, it's for changing the future. You may think that you're doing something because of the kindness of your heart, and you are, but you're doing something to change someone's life. And I think you don't get to see that in the front, and I'm grateful that we're able to be in this event to show you specifically what your generosity has done to students like us. But it's for a bigger purpose. Like when you're thinking about just this money to you guys, it's like a little bit, yeah, no problem, I'll give to the university. To me, it's everything. To us, it's everything. So that change, it's not something that you're doing that may not have results. It's an investment that you're going to see come back when these students come back and give back to the university, give back to the economy, give back to the world. So honestly, the way I would put it is it's not just a gift. It's an investment into someone's future that could ultimately not only benefit you, but benefit the world. It's telling a student that they don't have to give up their dreams of going to college. It's college. We should all be able to go to college. It's telling students from low income first generation neighborhoods that they can do it just like every other kid that got a great education at a private school somewhere in North Jersey. It's literally saying, let's take away this barrier between both parties and let's put them in the same playground and see if we can all win. So that's pretty much what I would say. It's not about the simplicity of saying like, oh yeah, like we're going to give this money away. It's more so about seeing this money be a factor in helping all students be equal in all economic and social standards.
Thank you. How about you, Israel? Sell me.
Echoing what Susan said, it's an investment, but it's not an investment just into one person. It's an investment to thousands. And ultimately, it's an investment into yourself as well. When you invest in the lives of others, you are investing in people who are future world leaders, future doctors, future lawyers, future world changers, people who are going to change society. And as we grow old, as we grow up, we're going to need people who are capable of taking on things in society that are hard, that are not easy, and that we need people who are qualified to do it. And an investment into the Scarlet Promises Grant ensures that we're going to have a better society for all of us, not just one, not just certain factors or certain socioeconomic backgrounds, but for everybody in every community. It's an investment.
That's great. Well, I can't thank the two of you enough for your comments, and if you have anything else that you'd like to add, please do so. But it's been a long road with these gifts, and it all started with, like I said, historically at the beginning of this talk. And thanks has to go out to all the previous chairs of the Board of Trustees, Bill Best, Mary DiMartino, our current chair, Jose Piazza, and all the people that participated in the task force and philanthropy and everything else to help bring this to light. And it's been great. And then, Jonathan, we can't thank you enough as well. So I'm going to hand it off to Jonathan now, and we'll close out the event.
Well, if you're like me, there's no need for the president to close out the event when you have Susan and Israel explaining why you need to invest in Scarlet Promise Grants. I mean, these individuals are the evidence, all the evidence that I need to invest even more money into this program. This is, their stories, while they are exceptional in their poise and in their presentation skills, of course, their stories are not unique. They represent many other people, thousands at Rutgers, who are going to be able to tell that story of being a future leader, whether it's in public affairs, whether it's in Wall Street, whether it's in a pre-K classroom, whether it's doing lab research in the savannah somewhere in Africa. These are people we are setting up to succeed, and that we know they're going to succeed because they're incredibly driven and determined to get there. They just needed interventions along the way. They needed a little investment along the way. And that's what this is all about. I mean, to me, as I said at the beginning, the Rutgers represents the democratic possibilities of this great nation. These students represent the democratic possibilities of a Rutgers education. They, I am certain, are going to change the world. And that change may happen locally, that change may happen at the state, the change may happen literally around the world, but they're going to make a change. And they're able to do so because of you. They're able to be part of this great narrative because of your faith in the possibility that they represent. You all may not meet each other in person, but by investing in the Scarlet Promise Grant program, you are guaranteeing a better future. And we all know, look around the world these days, we need people who are going to do that work to make the world a better place. We've got Sarah in front of us, we've got Israel in front of us. there's many other people behind them who are going to do that work, and they're going to do it because of all the ways you facilitate their success. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you to Susan and Israel for, like, my God, we just could have had you on for 45 minutes and we probably would have done better when it comes to the return on investment for this time. Thank you for everybody on the call for being here and for listening to this and thinking about this. And I hope that you've heard enough to help make a difference in so many students' lives. And as Israel pointed out, in your own future as well. And as Susan pointed out, we are out to change the world. We all know she is going to change the world. It would be great to do it together. Thank you so much. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Israel. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everybody. Take care.